Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Today, we have our new Monmouth Ocean Regional Realtors affiliate member, Wayne Ryder of Ryder Home Inspections, joining us. He's going to go over the lead dust clearance education. Is that right, Wayne?
That is correct, Lauren.
Perfect. As you guys all know, there is upcoming legislature going into effect as of July 22nd of this year. So Wayne's going to be covering that information as well as other beneficial information and intricacies that you will face and your homeowner may face when it comes to properties. So with that being said, you have the ability to submit some questions. We will be watching the Q&A. And I think I'm just going to hand it off to Wayne. All yours, Wayne.
Great. Thank you so much, Lauren,
Thank you
for having me here today. Like Lauren said, I'm an affiliate member with the Monmouth Ocean County Realtors, so it really is a great pleasure to be here speaking with you today and giving you some of this information that I've been studying for about a year now since this law got written in by Governor Murphy. So a little bit of background on myself. I am a lifelong Jersey Shore resident. I grew up in Monmouth County and Ocean County, so I'm very familiar with the area that we all work in. I'm a home inspection company. I have over 20 years of experience in the construction industry and multiple facets of it. Excuse me. The majority of my business are buyer's inspections. And then we do quite a few pre-listing inspections too. Obviously it depends on the market. One is sometimes more popular than the other. We also do the pool and spa inspections, mold and indoor air quality inspections, drone inspections. I like to utilize a drone on a roof whenever I can't walk on it. Of course, I love walking on a roof. It's one of my favorite things to do, believe it or not. But if it's too dangerous to do so, I utilize the drone. I also do a lot of one-year home warranty inspections. We usually recommend this in the 11th month of a home warranty before it goes out. And radon testing, WDI testing, which is your termite testing or inspecting, tank sweeps and sewer scopes. I can schedule those upon request by the client. And then the reason why we're here today, lead dust clearance inspections. This is a new thing for us. It's like I said, I heard about the law last year. It came out last year, and since then I've been studying on it and basically getting the education needed to get the certifications to do what I need to do in this. So let's start off. What is lead dust? Okay, I've heard a lot about it lately. Basically, the EPA, as per the EPA, lead is a naturally occurring element found in small amounts in the Earth's crust. It does have some beneficial uses. We're not here today to talk about those. We're here to talk about the bad stuff. So it can be toxic to humans and animals, and it causes dangerous health effects. So basically, lead dust, when we're talking about lead dust, it's the breakdown of lead-based objects in the home, such as lead paint or lead pipes. When lead is disturbed, it causes dust to scatter in the air. Most frequently, this will happen when lead-based paint is sanded or chipped. So I just want to do a little history on lead paint. So basically, lead paint, it actually originated back as far back as the 4th century BC. The Romans and the Greeks were really the first to use it. It became very, very popular back then because of its thickness, density, and opacity. Basically, it was a long-lasting, alternative to, they used to whitewash back then. But this came out, they loved it, they used it. They began to add the lead to the paint to accelerate drying time. So basically, you get in and out of a house and have it painted and done pretty quickly to get that second coat on. So you could, it was efficient basically. And then it also created long-lasting finishes, so you didn't have to touch it up as much. This is a crazy number here. Early on, cans of lead-based paint could contain up to 70% lead. From what we know today from our education and everything else, we know that this is an extremely high level of lead. It was popularized during colonial times for home interiors and exteriors. And then The usage peaked in about the 19th century in America. So here we have our little Dutch boy. He's very proud of his product. So most homes built prior to 78 still contain some traces of lead-based paints. So the rest of the world kind of caught on to this, lead and paint thing early on, but the US did not conform to international lead-based standards until the late 20th century. It was in 71 that Congress finally decided to do something about it. They banned lead-based paint, but they did it on a very slim scale. They basically just banned it on any new residential or commercial buildings that were constructed, and it was only the ones that were constructed with federal funding. So you basically had the majority of residential homes and buildings that were going up were still, they were still using lead paint then. Although lead paint started getting very expensive in the 60s and 70s, so you saw less use of it, but it was definitely still prevalent in the construction industry. So the U.S. Consumer and Product Safety Commission finally, in 1977, caught up with the rest of the world and decided to ban lead-based paint outright. And when I say outright, I mean I'm speaking about all residential and public properties, as well as all manufactured products like toys, furniture, and things like that. So let's get into some of the health concerns real quick, guys. There's a lot. The reason why there was such a big push for this lead education, if you will, or new legislation in the state was because children's lead blood levels were not good. They were high. So it's really, the children are affected the most. However, it does have health concerns for adults as well. So we'll go through those quickly here. Some of the exposure in adults can cause numerous health issues. We see kidney failure in adults. We also see high blood pressure, digestive problems, nerve disorders, memory and concentration problems, neuromuscular impairment. We also see muscle and joint pain, reproductive and fertility complications, as well as blindness and anemia. In children, we see some different things. In children, it can cause stunted bodily growth. We also see stunted brain development and decreased intelligence, along with cognitive disabilities. There's a lot of poor muscle coordination, decreased muscle and bone growth, nervous system and kidney damage, learning disabilities, attention deficit disorders, and hearing damages. So it's really bad for children, this lead poisoning. Exposure to high amounts can cause devastating effects. We see seizures, unconsciousness, and we even see death, unfortunately, in children. So there's this question. Very easy as adults to answer this question. Who in their right mind would eat paint chips? Really, we would all say nobody. We all heard the joke, about, oh, that person, they ate paint chips as a kid, ha, ha, ha. Well, it actually did happen. When lead paint peels, it often falls off in sheets or chips. The reason why it became so prevalent in children is because these chips tend to taste very sweet, which is what makes them so appealing to the little ones. And again, this, like I just said, this is why lead poisoning in the U.S. became so prevalent in toddlers and young children. We worry about lead dust because as it breaks down on the outside of a home, there's children playing outside. That dust will break down from the exterior paint, goes into the soil. They're playing in the dirt, the sandbox, whatever. It gets on their toys. They bring it inside. I have a 2-year-old, and I know everything still goes in her mouth, and she's got a full set of teeth. And I mean, it's scary because it tastes sweet. They're going to keep going back for it. So you see it a lot, unfortunately, in children. So how do we identify lead-based paint hazards? Now, this is basically what we're looking for in general, not just from the inspector viewpoint. This is basically, things that you can look for as an agent when you're out there at homes, or you just picked up a new client and you're going to be the property manager. So you want to look for deteriorated lead-based paint. It's going to show up as like a peeling, chipping, chalking, cracking, or any kind of damage. It's considered hazardous and needs immediate attention. So here's the thing. This is very important to remember. If lead-based paint is usually not a hazard if it is in good condition and there is no impact or friction against it. In other words, if it's encapsulated. So let's take, for example, a home in Ocean Grove. Pick any beautiful, well-restored, not even restored, but just well taken care of Victorian up in Ocean Grove. You might have 8 layers of paint on there. The first 2 layers on there may be lead, or even, the first 6 layers. But as long as it's encapsulated by non-lead paint, meaning there's no holes in the walls, anything like that, it can be considered lead safe. And that's where the lead safe dust clearance comes into play. That's what we're looking for. So just because a home has lead paint doesn't mean that, it's going to fail every time for lead paint. As long as it's in good condition and well taken care of, you shouldn't have anything to worry about. So some of the common hazardous areas that we really look for, we look at windows and windowsills. We also look at doors and door frames. So this middle check mark here, you see impact friction. So we see a lot of damage on windows. We call it friction damage. And it's basically where the window rubs against the windowsill as it closes and opens. We've all seen the paint wear down there. That's a friction point. As well as like interior doors, especially wooden ones, we see expansion and contraction of the material through different seasons. In the summertime, your door might stick a little bit up in one corner because, they obviously expand in the summer. In the winter, you don't get that sticking again in the door with the door jamb. Sometimes you'll see that paint wear up there in that corner. That's also another friction point. So that's a point that we look for, that we worry about, where basically it's a window or a porthole or whatever you want to call it, a way for that dust to break down and enter the home. We also look at stairs, railings, and banisters quite closely because those are frequently used areas that are prone to wear. Porches are another one. When we're looking at the exterior of a home, it's open to the elements. You have a lot of storms here in the Northeast, from snow to thunderstorms in the summer. You also have a lot of movement on a porch. Obviously, there's a lot of walking, furniture being moved around, this and that. So we look at porches quite closely as well. Basically, what we want to look for are surfaces that are easily accessed or chewed on by children. And this will make sense to you a little later in the slideshow because we talk about where we're going to do our lead dust tests from in the home. And one of the spots that we're required by the EPA is to do it on the windowsills in each bedroom. So, there's always, children looking out the windows and they don't even realize it, but they decide, oh, I'm going to chew on this piece of wood here. So maybe not all of them, but some of them. So basically that's what we're looking for. So let's get back to lead dust. This picture here is a breakdown of paint. This is basically your windowsill or a window trough. And this is where we do some of our sampling from here. So this would fail a visual side of the inspection and you wouldn't be able to do a dust sample. But again, I'll explain that shortly. So really quickly too, guys, some of this information is going to repeat itself throughout these slides. I do it for a reason because the information that you see that repeats itself is information that's important for you as professionals in your industry to basically know, so that you can be proactive and your clients can be proactive in preparing for this new legislation that's coming up. So lead dust forms when lead paint is scraped, sanded, or heated. Lead painted surfaces bump or rub together. That's like that friction point I was just speaking of before with the doors and the windows. Settled dust can re-enter the air when the home is vacuumed, swept, or when walked through. So the EPA has certain levels of lead dust in a home that they consider hazardous. So they're basically clearance levels. So we're looking for 10 micrograms or less per square foot. That's what we're looking for a passing dust sample. Anything 10 micrograms per square foot and higher, that's no good. 100 micrograms per square foot and higher for interior window wells is considered a failed lead dust sample. And then when it comes to window troughs, It's 400 400 micrograms per square foot. So I don't have that in here. So here we have a sugar packet, right? So you're like, what's this doing on my screen? So basically, it's just an example of how potent lead dust can be. One sugar packet emptied and then filled with the same amount of lead dust as the granulated sugar that you took out of it. You put the same amount of lead dust into it, then you spread it across an entire football field. It would render that field to be completely contaminated. So it's very potent stuff. We see it a lot more in, impoverished communities. You see it in a lot of older homes, pre-50s, but for the sake of this law, it's anything pre-78. Like I said before, lead paint started getting very expensive in the 50s and 60s, so there was less use of it. However, it was still available. So the way the state wrote the legislation, it has to be anything before 78 until there was an outright ban, from the federal government on it. So basically, what is the issue? Well, the issue is, like we said, lead paint is hazardous and can prove harmful to children and adults, leading to differentiated health issues. Excuse me. It was banned by the feds. It was banned by the feds in 1977, right? So when discussing lead, we focus on homes built prior to 1978. Of these homes in the state of New Jersey, there's 1.1 million of them. And like I said before, many are concentrated in poor urban communities. So let's get into the bill a little bit that passed. So this is kind of a brief synopsis of the history of the bill. It's NJS 1147. So the bill was originally introduced in 2003 by our Senator Ron Rice. Back then, it got nowhere. It received zero traction. Then in 2020, Senator Teresa Ruiz, she reintroduced the bill. And the bill that she reintroduced, it required that a lead paint inspection take place prior to the sale of a home or tenant turnover. Now, this, became an issue for a lot of real estate associations. So they did not want that point of sale part of the bill in there. So it was substituted with new language, again, due to that strong opposition from the associations. So basically what they did was, to get the bill passed, they removed the original time of sale requirement. Now, in saying that, we all know when bills get passed, they can change as time goes on. So it's important to know this information and prepare yourselves for the future, because there are certain powers to be that would like to see this at the point of sale. As of right now, it's not required at point of sale, but anything can change in the future. So again, just be prepared for that. In the future, it could possibly come up. So the substitution that was made to take that, that time of sale requirement out of the bill that she introduced, Teresa Ruiz, it requires a lead dust inspection once there is a tenant turnover at a residence or within 2 years of the bill's effective date. A little more on the bill here. So it was signed on July 22nd, 2021 by Governor Murphy, and it was to go into effect 1 year from the date of signing, which would be this July of 2022. So the bill requirements, again, lead dust inspection on residential rental properties. We're not talking about commercial properties here. So it's very important to remember that. The bill just speaks of residential rental properties. They need lead dust inspection if they were built before 1978, including upon tenant turnover or within 2 years of the bill's effective date. Thereafter, every dwelling unit shall be inspected every 3 years or upon tenant turnover, whichever comes first. So basically, this first one here is July 22nd comes of this summer, 22. You have 2 years to come into compliance or upon your next tenant turnover, whichever comes first. Thereafter, you have to do it every 3 years or upon the tenant turnover, whichever comes first. Okay. I just want to repeat that because there's a lot of information here today. So you guys feel free to contact me. I know Lauren's going to give you all my information. You probably have it already. I'm very approachable, so you can call me anytime. I can answer any of your questions. So if it is determined that a property owner has failed to comply with a provision, they will first be given 30 days to cure the violations by conducting the required inspection or to begin remediation efforts. So this law is going to be enforced by your local governing agencies. So you're going to be getting notices, or they're basically, it's going to be the boroughs, the townships, or the municipalities that are going to be enforcing this new bill S1147. So first, the property owner is given this 30 days to cure the violation if they're not in compliance, right? So if they have not cured the violation after 30 days or gotten the inspection done, they should be subject to a penalty of not to exceed $1,000 per week until the inspection has been conducted or remediation efforts have been initiated. So first step is they don't come into compliance when they're supposed to. First step, they got a 30-day notice from the local governing agency. If they don't do anything within that 30 days, then they are subject to that penalty of $1,000 a week after the 30 days is up. I don't know anybody that wants to pay $1,000 a week in a fine for an income property. So if a lead hazard is identified in an inspection of one of the dwelling units in a building consisting of 2 or 3 dwelling units, then the inspector must inspect the other units in the building as well. So this is another important part of the bill here. So again, this is, a little bit of repetition. We already talked about this. The bill was signed on July 22nd, 21. Lead dust inspections will not be mandatory until July 22nd of 22. So that's when the legislation goes into effect. But remember that they have from July 22nd, 22, they have 2 years to come into compliance or upon their next tenant turnover, whichever comes first, okay? So, there are some exceptions to this law, and we'll get into those in a little bit, and I'll explain those more in detail for you. So, it's not necessarily every home pre-78. So basically, I have some slides here on what are the expectations and requirements of property owners. First one here is, again, the lead dust testing to be performed within 2 years of enacted legislation on each unit or upon tenant turnover, whichever comes first. Thereafter, they have to get it inspected upon every tenant turnover or every 3 years, whichever comes first. The property owner or landlord, they must provide evidence of a valid lead safe certification to new tenants at time of tenant turnover. And they must affix a copy of the lead safe certificate to the lease. Here we are, continuation of these expectations and requirements. The landlord must also maintain a record of the lead safe certification, which will include the name or names of the unit's tenants if the inspection was conducted during a period of tenancy. So there are some exceptions to the rule, not necessarily. So this here, visual or dust inspection. So within the legislation, they speak about elevated blood levels in children that have been tested under the age of 6. So basically, you can either, a certain community may be able to just get a visual inspection done and not have to get the dust inspection done in order to get that lead safe certificate. And it basically, the kind of inspection required, it's based upon specific percentages of elevated blood levels in children tested under the age of 6 years old within each community. Now, this criteria, it's found within the central lead screening database, which is maintained by the Department of Health. So I won't bore you with the numbers. It's basically, they go by micrograms per deciliter in the blood. But if you have any questions about this, please reach out to me, contact me. And when I book an inspection, a lead dust inspection, when the client calls me, I find out, obviously where the home is. And what I do is I'll look up in my database, or actually it's a Department of Health database. I'll look up to see what those percentages are. And if they fall within a certain window, then they only have to get a visual inspection. If they fall out of that window or in another window, It's a dust inspection. So basically, though, you have to look at it. When you get a dust inspection, it includes a visual. So I know it sounds confusing, but it all makes sense. It's a new law. We have to remember that. We don't need to get, upset about it. It'll figure itself out. That's why I'm here to give you as much information as possible. So more expectations and requirements of property owners. So these are the exemptions. So these are the times a property owner does not need a lead dust inspection, okay? This is a very important one, especially where I grew up down here on the shore. We have a lot of short-term rentals, summer rentals, right? So if it's a short-term rental, a short-term lease of less than 6 months with no consecutive lease renewals, it does not have to get a lead dust inspection. So you can take a deep breath. All your summer renters, which are probably have already have their leases signed already for this year, I would hope. You're not going to have to get it for anything less than 6 months. Now, keep this in mind. A lot of the property owners, that have these short-term rentals, summer rentals, they turn it into a winter rental come September, October. Well, come September, October, that winter rental, it's usually over 6 months. So you're going to have to get a lead dust inspection for that winter rental. So, that would fall under the, within 2 years or upon tenant turnover, whichever comes first. Obviously, that would be a tenant turnover, so that would come first because it's after July 22 of this summer. So it's also exempt if it's a multiple dwelling registered with Department of Community Affairs as a multiple dwelling for at least 10 years. Either under the current owner of the property or the previous owner. As long as it's been registered with the DCA as a multiple dwelling for at least 10 years and has no outstanding lead violations from the most recent cyclical inspection performed on the multiple dwelling under the hotel and multiple dwelling law. This is very important. This is for like a lot of like your, larger apartment complexes. A lot of the times they're going to be registered as with the DCA as a multiple dwelling. So this is an important one to remember as well. And then, of course, if it's certified as being lead-free, it's lead-free. It is good for the life of the property. They don't ever have to worry about this inspection if it's certified as being lead-free. Though it's not required by law, we highly recommend that homeowners have their home tested for lead dust for peace of mind. I don't push that when I book a buyer's inspection. I don't push it. I'm not one of these guys that push extra inspections on people because they're going through so much already. If they want to do it, they know it's on my website. They can get it done. But I always recommend this to people who have small children after they move in, or I just I recommend it. But like I said, I'm a pretty reasonable guy. I'm not pushy. So, lead dust testing clearance process. What do we do when we go there as an inspector, as Ryder Home Inspections? When I go to that job, these are some of the things we do, okay? This is the process. This is very important. This is the most important one right here, the visual inspection. So when I go to a property and I know that property has to get a dust sampling, it doesn't fall within that, percentage that we talked about before with the blood levels. So I know they're getting a dust inspection. So first thing I do, and this is for any lead inspection, I go in, I do a visual inspection. What I'm looking for is deteriorated paint, chips, debris, visible dust, or holes on both the interior and the exterior of the home. Under the EPA's rule, the visual inspection is designed to determine if the area is free of visible dust and debris before lead dust clearance can begin. If I go into a home and I do the visual inspection and I see deteriorated paint, holes in the walls, I can't go to the next part of that inspection and do the dust sampling. It's automatically going to fail that dust inspection. Now, whenever I book these lead dust inspections, I always book them a couple of weeks out because I have a whole breakdown of how to prepare for a lead dust clearance test, what the property owner needs to know, specifics on cleaning, on painting, basically how to prepare for it. So when I get there and I have to do that visual side of the inspection, they're going to stand a better chance of of getting a a lead safe certificate or a passing on the inspection. So I go in, I do the visual inspection, okay? And then I go in, if it passes the visual inspection, then I go to the interior of the home. I'm in the interior already because I do a visual on the exterior, then I do a visual on every room in the interior, every accessible room. After it passes the visual inspection, I then go to each bedroom. I take 2 samples, dust wipe samples from each bedroom. Then I take 1 from the main living area. Both a floor and a window sample are required in each room. So for a 3-bedroom home, you're looking at 8 samples altogether that have to get sent out to the lab. So then after that's done, I will send the samples to the lab for testing. I have a pretty good relationship with my lab. They have a quick turnaround for me. It's usually within 24 hours. Worst case scenario, 48 hours. So then once I get the lab results back, I will compare them to the EPA clearance standards for residual lead dust. These are the clearance standards. Again, we talked about this before. We're looking for less than 10 micrograms per square foot. 10 micrograms or more per square foot on a floor sample would be a failed dust test. On interior windowsills, we're looking for 100 micrograms per square foot or less. Sorry, we're looking for less than 100 micrograms per square foot on interior windows. 100 or more would be considered a fail. On the window troughs, we call them troughs. We call them windowsills. It's basically the casement window where it slides open and closed. You've got that track. That's a window trough. So on window troughs, we're looking for less than 400 micrograms per square foot on the lead dust sample when it comes back from the lab. So once all these clearance standards are met, hopefully a written report will be given out. Lab results and a lead safe certificate will be provided if results come back at or below the EPA clearance standards. Here we have some pictures. I apologize, they're a little grainy, but this is one that, obviously this top left one here, you can't do. This next set of slides is basically how to prepare for a clearance test. So you guys can let your clients know, how they have to prepare. This is no bueno. I can't take a lead dust test. This would have to be clean before I arrive. And that's why I send all my clients the information they need before I arrive. This here is what we talked about, the chalking. I don't know if you remember that from the one slide earlier. It's when you rub your hand down along, a windowsill and it comes up with that paint on it. And then obviously this is exterior, chipping or breakdown of paint. So how do we prepare for a lead dust clearance test? There's a lot of stuff here. You don't have to remember everything, but try to. So property must be clear of the following before lead dust sampling can be conducted. This goes for both the interior and exterior of the home. I am looking for deteriorated paint. And deteriorated paint meaning chalking of paint, chipping of paint, peeling of paint, any friction damage like we talked about in the doors and the windowsills, any bubbling, which is usually a sign of water damage. So that's what we're looking for. We're also looking for holes in the walls. Again, remember what we're talking about here is we're talking about the release of lead dust into the home. So in order for that dust, in order for that paint to break down into a dust, if it's in a layer of paint that's closest to the structure of the building, meaning the first or second coat of paint on it, if there's a hole in the wall, and we see this a lot on interior doors, when you open the door and there's no door stop, the door handle will over time will hit that sheetrock and it'll get a little hole in it. So we're looking for holes in places like that. We're looking for any holes. Debris, we can't inspect a place that's full of debris. Obviously, windowsills are full of debris, floors are full of debris, and we're looking for visible dust. So lead dust, keep in mind, you can't see it. It's you can, but under a microscope. But we're basically looking for any dust bunnies, things like that. All that dust in a windowsill has to be cleaned before I can take that wipe and do my lead dust sampling. So basically, this is a good way to look at it. Any damage to walls other than nail holes and hairline cracks, are going to have to be taken care of prior to the inspection taking place. So there is going to be some work here. It's very important to be proactive, with your clients. There's going to be it's going to take some time to prepare for these. So this is why I'm out early in the game, trying to let everybody know about what's going on. So as well as the exterior interior, we all painted, varnished, or poly-coated areas within the dwelling unit. They must be intact with no peeling, chipping, or cracking. So this includes your baseboards, doors and frames, your walls, ceilings, enclosed porches, painted cabinets, radiators, window jambs and frames, windowsills, wells, and both sides of the sashes. So again, guys, this is the visual inspection end of it. This is all the stuff. These are the areas that we're going to be looking at. Now, we are required by EPA and HUD standards to visually inspect all rooms within the interior of the home, all accessible rooms. So this includes laundry areas, basements. Now, again, this is visual inspection. Laundry areas, basements, attics, and basically any other areas directly accessible from within the dwelling unit. They have to be visually inspected. So this is just a quick slide on how to renovate safely. It's very basic. If renovation, repair, or painting projects disturb lead-based paint homes, the EPA requires a couple of things. These are a few of the things that are required. The firm being used must be certified by EPA or is an EPA authorized state. Basically, these renovators are trained by EPA approved training providers, and lead safe work practices are followed. If your client is considering renovations or repairs on their pre-78 home, you should recommend that they hire a lead safe certified renovator. So how do we clean and prep our homes for a lead dust wipe test? This is the stuff you really want to pay attention to. I know I keep saying that about every slide, but I am passionate about this. I think everybody should know about all this, so forgive me. But this is what we got to do. Must be done at least 1 hour prior to the inspection. It's very important. You have to have drying time before the inspector can come in and do those dust wipe samples. So window wells and sills are cleaned in one direction with an all-purpose cleaner, then rinsed with water and cleaned a second time. Windows that are intended to open must be operable. So when you're cleaning these windowsills, you don't want to wipe back and forth. You want to wipe one way, rinse, and then wipe it a second time. And you want to obviously use that all-purpose cleaner. Bare floors, meaning, tile or hardwood or, linoleum, whatever, anything other than carpet, basically. You're using a new mop head with cleaner and clean water for each room. I'm sure you know why you're doing clean water for every room. Reason being, you don't want to cross-contaminate. You want to keep it isolated. So you clean a floor in one room and you pick up a little lead dust, you don't even know it. You use the same water for the next room. What are you doing? You're spreading it to the next room, or you could possibly be spreading it to the next room. So it's important to use that clean water for every room. When it comes to carpets, carpets should be vacuumed in one direction and then again in a cross direction. Okay, so this way and then this way. These are, like I said before, this is kind of like a punch list, and there's more information than this on mine. So I send this punch list out to my clients before the inspection takes place, so I can prepare them as best as possible for these inspections. So just keep that in mind. So on the day of inspection, oh, look at this poor little cat. I have no idea what's going on. Anyway, on the day of inspection, animals should be temporarily removed from the dwelling. Reason for this, they have to be removed from the dwelling because they can bring lead dust from the outside to the interior, or they can move it around the home. So after you're done cleaning, you don't want the animals, cross-contaminating. So the entire dwelling will be visually inspected to ensure that no chipping, cracking, or peeling paint is present. Any locked off areas, meaning attics or basements, they must be made accessible for visual inspection. Lead dust wipe samples may be taken from windowsills, wells, and floors. Now, if no window is present in a room, a floor area may still be tested. I know some of you are probably wondering about this. Lead safe versus lead free. We mentioned lead free. We mentioned lead safe. Let's get into it a little bit and talk about what the differences are. So, lead free certification. If your dwelling has a lead free certification, it's free of any lead, and it's not required to be tested in the future. So if you have that lead free certification, it's not required to be tested in the future. The lead safe certification, the dwelling has passed a lead dust test and all paint is intact and in good shape. You're going to get this lead safe certification when you do have lead paint in the home, but it's in good shape, it's well encapsulated, and a dust wipe has been done and nothing has shown up on it. This is when you'll get this lead safe cert. And again, these certifications are good until the next tenant turnover. Now, let's just do a recap again of basic the stuff that you should probably know. So a lead dust inspection must be performed under the following circumstances: within 2 years of enacted legislation or upon tenant turnover, whichever comes first. Thereafter, each dwelling will be lead dust tested every 3 years or upon tenant turnover, whichever comes first. A lead dust inspection does not have to be performed under the following circumstances: if it's a short-term lease of less than 6 months with no consecutive renewals, okay? If the dwelling is certified as being lead-free, it does not have to get tested. If it's in a multiple dwelling that has been registered with the Department of Community Affairs as a multiple dwelling for at least 10 years, either under the current or previous owner, and has no outstanding lead violations from the recent cyclical inspection performed on the multiple dwelling under the hotel and multiple dwelling law. Again, this is dealing with like your larger apartment complexes and things like that. But you have to make sure that it is registered with the DCA, for at least 10 years with no lead violations in the last inspection, okay? So penalties, again, real quick, we'll touch on these. So again, like I said earlier, the enforcement, it'll be through your local governing bodies. So your municipalities, your boroughs, your townships, they are the ones that are going to be, getting people to comply with this law and giving out these fines. So first, you'll be given 30 days to cure the violations by either conducting the required lead dust inspection or to begin remediation efforts. If after 30 days, the property owner has not cured the violation, they will be subject to a penalty of $1,000 a week until the inspection has been conducted or remediation efforts have been initiated. Okay, so this is important to remember. So again, guys, this is a new topic in the state. It's not a new topic, but now that the law has been passed, it's definitely something that, let's just face it, the state's very proud of how they performed up in Newark as far as the lead pipe abatement went. They finished ahead of schedule and under budget. You're going to see a lot more about lead. It's a very important thing. It can be very dangerous to children. I'm happy that the state has stepped up and taken this step forward in trying to do the best they can in getting rid of these high lead blood levels in children. In 2015, believe it or not, I think there was, don't quote me on the exact number, but somewhere between 13 and 16 municipalities in the state of New Jersey had higher lead levels in children than Flint, Michigan. And we all remember Flint, Michigan, the issues they had out there. So it is an issue. It's more of an issue in urban communities, but nonetheless, it is an issue. So again, my name is Wayne Ryder. I'm an affiliate member with the Monmouth Ocean Realtor, Regional Realtors. This is some of my contact information. We are a lead safe certified firm. My website's here, my phone number. Like I said, I'm a very approachable guy. I'm very level-headed when it comes to inspections. And if you have any questions at all, please reach out, and please consider Ryder Home Inspections for any home inspection needs you have, including these lead dust clearance tests. Okay. So with
You
that,
may-
I'll give it back to Lauren.
Yeah, so just to recap, we do have a few questions that came in. I'm not sure if you saw them come in.
Yeah, I was gonna look at them after and go through them, but yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, so one that just came in, how does this affect, if it does affect, new homes built with recycled material such as floors, painted bricks, cabinets, etc.?
That's a very good question. I mean, if the home, so, all right, so you're saying basically like used brick, right? Is that, I'm assuming like, like that old school red brick that gets recycled and you use it in a new home. So a lot of the times, that stuff has to be abated. I spent some years in the demolition industry actually. So when we were taking buildings like that down, that stuff had to be abated before it was taken down. So a lot of the times that is taking those materials before they go back on the market to be resold. By law, from what I understand, they have to be, tested and everything else. I mean, you can't just take, for example, soil from one property and backfill another property without being tested. So I would assume that would be taken care of. But that's a very good question. I haven't had that one yet. But it doesn't, as far as this law goes, it doesn't say anything about the recycled material in the law. So I would say, you'd probably be all right. Here we go. We got another one here. Lauren, you want me to just take these?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, so we have another one. Can we get a copy of this slideshow presentation in addition to having it recorded? Lauren, you've already done that.
Yes, I'll be sending it out again because we did have quite a few people register as of this
Mhm.
morning. So we just want to make sure we have everyone accounted for. But you will be getting a copy shortly, don't worry.
So here's another one from Michael. Do you suggest repainting all rental properties prior to inspections? I don't suggest anything as far as that goes because I don't know what those rental properties look like. So for me to say yes or no, that's irresponsible of me as an inspector. I can only tell you if I go to a home and I, see it visually and there's chipping paint, then I would say to them, look, before you do this, you're gonna have to do something. You're gonna have to work on this paint here. So that's how, I would answer that one. So Kathy has one here. What does this all cost? Will all home inspectors be licensed? Not all home inspectors will be licensed. It depends on the home inspector. If they decide they want to go through the training and they want to get the extra insurance and go through all the hoops that they have to go through, then, I guess they'll be licensed. What does it cost? So that's a good question. My cost is, well, not my cost, but what I charge for a 3-bedroom dwelling, anything up to 3 bedrooms, a unit up to 3 bedrooms is $375 for a lead dust inspection. Any bedrooms after that, it's $50 per bedroom. So that's the cost. Let's go to Rachel Weston's question here. How many known lead paint remediators are there in Monmouth County? That's worth a Google, Kathy, because I don't really get into that end of it. I'm here to talk about this law. I wish I had an answer for you, but there is a list. The DCA has a list on their website of remediators that you can look at to see who's out there. Gail Billows, how long does it take to get clearance from EPA? I don't know in what context you're talking about exactly, because so basically what it is the EPA set clearance standards. So they tell us as inspectors that these samples have to meet certain standards. So once you meet those certain standards by a pass, above or below, it's a pass or fail. They're the ones who set the standards for these samples. So we go off of their set standards. That's the 10, 100, and 400 micrograms per square foot that we were talking about. Let's see here. Okay, I'm just reading these. So we have Sandy Homes that received RREM monies from the federal government were all tested. Are they lead safe? If they were tested and they were giving a lead-free certification, they're good. They're good for the life of the property. If they have a lead-free certification, they're good to go. That's what it boils down to. As far as the way this legislation was written, again, remember, this is new legislation, guys. So it's up for interpretation. It's going to be argued. It's going to be put through the ringer, like everything. So I'm sure there's gonna be changes here and there. There's, like I said, there's gonna be interpretations. So it's important to remember that. We have Marie Peterson, is lead paint inspection required only for homes built before 78? Yes, 78, 1978, that's the magic number. Anything before 78, they are going to be required for a lead dust clearance inspection before tenant turnover or within 2 years of the legislation being enacted. Who pays for the testing? How much? Seller, buyer? Well, we're not necessarily talking about point of sale here, Rashawn, because that was taken out of the law. So who pays for the testing? The property owner. The property owners are the ones that are responsible to pay for the testing. Sandy and Tony Anello. Can you get a lead-based dust from a heating system? Can you get lead-based dust from a heat? I mean, lead dust can get into the home. It can get through the home. That's why we do the lead dust test for it, you know. So yeah, dust can go anywhere. I mean, once it's released into the air, it can re-enter the home, you know, through vacuuming, through AC, you know, and heating duct systems, of course. Yeah. Albina, how much approximately such an inspection could cost? I answered that. $375 for up to a 3-bedroom home, $50 for each additional bedroom. We answered that. So Michelle, we have, oh wait, let's go back up. Can we deny inspectors for inspecting if we realize something is there? I don't quite understand that question. Can we deny inspectors for inspecting if we realize something is there? Maybe you can give me a little more color on that question because I'm not reading it the way you wrote it. When a certification is done prior to a winter tenant occupying for more than 6 months and then subsequently becomes a summer weekly rental, is that considered a tenant turnover or is it still valid until the next winter tenant comes in? When a certification is done.
Michelle,
Yeah.
I just want to confirm, she's talking about 2 short-term rentals and turning over at the conclusion of each short-term lease. Is that right? Michelle, if you could just put that into the question. I think that's how you're asking it.
So when a certification is done. So to answer that question, Michelle, the way that question is worded, you only have to do it if it's for a lease of more than 6 months. Okay. So technically, that's a very, very good question because a lot of times it goes from a winter rental, like you're saying, that it was tested for that winter rental. Then it turned into a, you know, whatever it is, a weekly summer rental, anything under 6 months without consecutive lease renewals that are going to put you over the 6 months is what I think the state was getting at with that little bit of verbiage in the legislation. You wouldn't have to get it. You would just have to get it on the next tenant turnover that goes over 6 months. The way the laws, you know, the way I interpreted the law. Now, everybody interprets laws differently. That's why we have lawyers out there. But that's why, you know, but that's a great question, Michelle. Thank you. Hopefully that helps. The pricing again, like I said, $375 for up to a 3-bedroom, $50 for each additional bedroom on a unit. That's per unit. No, you did, Cindy, you didn't hear that towns have low probability of lead. What you have, it's based upon those numbers with the certain towns will be able to get just a visual inspection. Certain towns will have to get a dust inspection. It's based, the criteria they base that decision off of is if the town, not town, but community, they say community, whatever the the elevated lead blood level in children under 6 years old that have been tested in that community, if it falls under a certain percentage, they're going to get tested, or they'll be only liable for a visual inspection. If it comes over a certain percentage, And again, I have the numbers here. I don't want to confuse you with, less than 3% of 5 micrograms per deciliter. That's information that's just going to get confusing for you. But that's what it's based off of. It's based off of children's elevated blood levels that were tested under the age of 6. So it's not necessarily a community being, a low probability. They don't say anything about that in the legislation. You are correct, Michael. Short-term Airbnbs, they are exempt. Let me see here. Something happened. Scrolled. Okay, so yeah, Michelle, thanks for clearing up that question, and I think I answered it. Like I said, you'll have my email and everything, so if you have any questions, shoot me an email or call me, whatever you need to do. What is the cost of reinspection? Also, do you offer or recommend a certified cleaning company to do this? So Amanda, every inspection is the same price. So, because it's our time going out there, and then, anything can happen. Different tenants do, treat properties in different ways. And that's why they want this done, upon tenant turnover, because, some tenants can put a hole in the wall, release that dust. So the reinspection, the costs are the same. And as far as recommending a certified cleaning company, what I put out there is basically, I'll show you, I put out this, it's a sheet, it's a 2-page sheet of information for how to prepare. So, the property owner, if they don't want to do it themselves, they can give this checklist, punch list, whatever you want to call it, to their cleaning company, and they can do it. Yeah, Kathy, I'm sure. I mean, that can be done, but you got to remember that inspector, he's out there, and if he's stopping his inspection, he's gonna charge a reinspection for you to come back, in that situation that you're in right there with the window, where the seller realizes there's an issue. Let's go to Rashawn Quigley. Can you provide a lead-free cert, not lead dusting, and what is the cost? Once a landlord has his cert, he will not need to update once he has a new tenant. Is this correct? Yes, Rashawn, that is correct. Right now, I am in the process of getting certified to be a lead inspector / risk assessor in the state of New Jersey. Once I have that certification, which I should have within the next few months, I will be able to give those lead-free certs. And that way, the home will be considered lead-free if it passes. And basically what I'll end up doing is coming in with an X-ray gun, and I'll X-ray the walls and the paint. So yeah, in the future, I will be able to provide that service. So keep me in mind. Yeah, is there a website we can see which towns will require visual versus sample? Yeah, the Department of Health. You can go on there. And there's a central lead screening database there. That's where you want to go. I can try and find it for you and maybe send it out later on today, or give it to Lauren so she can make it available. If you have chipping paint in the basement, would you recommend sheetrocking over the chip paint? Well, I am a lead inspector, so my recommendations would be to remediate it. Now, you have a remediation company come in, and they might say, yeah, sure, go ahead, do the, cover it up with sheetrock, or they might say, no, you got to get rid of it. It's really up to the property owner. It's their property, it's their budget, it's what they want to spend. If you're looking to just forever do a lead safe cert, and you have lead paint in the basement and it is chipping, and they want to cover it up or encapsulate it. Like I said before in the slide, remember that if lead paint is encapsulated and in good shape, a lot of the times it's not a problem. So that's something to keep in mind. Now, I hope I got to all your questions. Oh, here we go. We have some more here. Are holes made for picture frame hooks included in the description of holes? No, Rachel, you don't have to worry about holes or hairline cracks. I think I got everybody. So let's go back to chat over here. Okay. I think that's it. You there, Lauren?
Yeah, I'm here. I
Okay,
think very, very well informed after this. Thank you,
Good.
Wayne. And we will be having Wayne back again. So if anything, you can definitely reach out to him directly if you have any kind of questions, need any kind of inspections, anything of that sort. And you can find him on his website as well as on the Monmouth Ocean Realtors website when you go to the home service directory. So definitely utilize those resources and keep an eye out because oh gosh, I'm going to butcher it.
It's all right, it's all right.
NJ Realtor is going to be doing the lead paint webinar on June 30th. So I know this is going to be time sensitive when I record this and send this out ultimately, but keep an eye out because they will be posting that on June 30th. I'll include the link itself in the follow-up email. And again, Wayne, thank you so much for the information. It definitely
Thank you,
benefits the
Lauren.
members, and I'll be reaching out to you shortly.
Sounds great. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I appreciate your time.
Thank you guys. Have a great
Have a
day.
great day. Bye-bye now.